Now batting for the New York Yankees, the shortstop, number 2.
Welcome back. This is episode 85 of the NYY Sports Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Christian. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
You.
And Stat Guy Rye.
Yo.
All right, episode...
Whoa.
That's how we should have opened it up with whoa. Because today we're pleased to announce that we have Ron Wotus, third base coach for the San Francisco Giants, joining us in just a few minutes. Ron has been part of the Giants organization for for almost over 20 years at this point now. He was served under 3 different managers, Felipe Alou, Dusty Baker, and, of course, Bruce Bochy on 3 different World Championship clubs. So it was interesting to sit down and talk to Ron, not only what it's like to be a part of that, and, for fans that don't understand certainly what bench coaches and third base coaches do, it was nice of Ron to explain that to them.
Yeah, and it gave us a little, we asked, we geared our questions as much as we could towards the Yankees, obviously. Here's something I was thinking of. How long has Sosha been with the Angels?
He doesn't work there anymore.
No, I know that. How long was he there, though?
Oh, boy. Was he a rookie when they won the World Series? Was that his first year?
Was that 99?
That was 2002 when they won.
They beat the Giants.
Yankee.
Really, Yankee Podcast asking if the Anaheim Angels won the World Series in 1999.
I wasn't asking that.
Oh God!
I was saying 99.
Wow.
Wasn't he with the Angels in 99?
Wow, you're so
whatever.
You're a fraud. How do you expect people to listen to this podcast?
I was actually there.
Oh, now I was there. I didn't even know they won the World Series in 99, but I was there, guys. I was there.
I was there when the Angels embarrassed the Yankees that year. Were you with me, Rye? That was when that was the Aaron Small year.
Sosha was 2000 to 2018.
So I was 1 year off. They signed him in the offseason of 99 to be the manager.
Yes, but you followed it up with my comment when I said
I wasn't fully listening to you, though.
It's always your excuse. I wasn't listening. I didn't hear you.
My point was, this guy's been around the San Francisco Giants organization longer than Sosha was with the Angels. That's how long Ron Wotus has been a coach in Major League Baseball.
And I think even that it's not as Yankee-centric as most of our interviews are. I still think it's an excellent listen.
Definitely.
It's a great listen if you're just a baseball fan to hear a guy that's been around the game as long as he has been.
Absolutely.
Talk about the game and, what goes into decision-making process. And, he spoke on a guy that Ryan's got a hard on for.
Who?
Bumgarner.
Oh, MadBum. Of course.
MadBum.
And I'll be honest, from his answer, and you'll hear it in a few minutes, from his answer, he's not off the table right now.
I think it's going to be more of a mid-season move, depending on how they're
going to want to get something for him. It's all going to depend on what the Giants are doing leading into the season and then how they're performing throughout the beginning portion.
But the Yankees still need to complete their building process here in the offseason. And, of course, that brings us to one Manny Machado, whose name will not ever leave the stratosphere until
he's a free agent this year.
Yeah, he's a free agent. I don't know if you heard that. I'm kind of getting sick of hearing his name. I just want him to wind up somewhere, whether it's here or somewhere else. Just please sign already so I can stop answering questions about where's Manny going? Where's Manny going? Hal Stein, Big Stein, said yesterday, I believe it was, that he wants to have a meeting with Mr. Machado before he gives his blessing to possibly sign him.
What do you think he's going to ask him?
Are you a
scumbag?
Are you a dirtbag?
Pretty much. That's pretty much how it's going.
I'll ask him what do you think is the Yankee way?
Did you hear Machado's rebuttal with Mark Feinsand about to kind of clear up his Johnny Hustle comment?
I didn't even care to listen to it because
he kind of took a shot at Brandon Nimmo though.
Well, you know what?
Right.
As much as I appreciate what Nimmo does, it's so fucking over the top.
It's too much, dude.
It really is. It's so stupid.
Like, dude,
don't sprint down the first on a walk.
You don't sprint the first. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't sprint the first base on a walk.
Have a little swag.
If it's a dropped, ball or something, then maybe. But if it's a fastball, it just misses the corner.
Look, I'm someone
in the catcher's glove.
I'm someone who loves guys who respect the game and play it right.
I almost think that Nimmo is disrespecting the game.
I agree, because there's a swag that comes with being a baseball player, and to sprint down to first base after a walk, just stop.
Does he run through the bag?
Yeah, it's no, he doesn't run through, but it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't get down.
Come on, Brandon.
That would, I know he's a Met, so we're probably a little harder on him being Yankee fans, but I don't know. I would get tired of watching that every day.
No, that would piss me off.
Yeah, Brandon Nemo.
Finding Nemo. He's going to find him in a body bag if he catches it. If I was playing first base,
I would just make fun of him all the time.
Him. I would just
I would fucking push him down, yeah.
Punk ass. Slow down, all right? It's
a walk.
It's a walk. Yeah, it's called a walk. It's not called a sprint, okay? It's in the title of what you just did. Walk. Jesus Christ. All right, so bring this back around here. Machado. Big Hal wants to sit down with him. Does that mean he's going to be a Yankee?
Yes. Yes, it does. To answer,
what could Machado, if Hal Steinbrenner wants to sit down and talk to Manny Machado, what could Machado possibly, that first of all, that obviously says the Yankees have interest in this guy, right?
Yes, obviously.
The manager, the owner of the ball club is not stopping what he's doing to go talk to Neil Walker or Marwin Gonzalez or fucking Johnny Bag of Donuts to be your backup third baseman.
But
he's talking. This is Manny Machado. He's one of the premier players in Major League Baseball. I think Hal just wants to hear it out of his mouth that he's not a dirt bag, that he's going to play the game hard, and then he's going to get on his iPhone and he's going to say, "All right, Brian, sit down with this guy, figure out something that works."
Here's something I want to bring up. Tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm off base or if you don't agree. Machado has played his entire career, and I'm not going to even throw in the Dodgers. It was such a short time. He's played his entire career pretty much with a team that he's been bigger than. He's been the main attraction, and he's young. He's still maturing. He knew he could get away with whatever he wanted. When he comes to the Yankees, don't you think that's gonna help him mature?
I don't know.
And he's gonna do what it takes to be a New York Yankee.
But why didn't that thought process go through his head in L.A. when he's playing for one of the most historic franchises in baseball, when all the eyes are on him because he's playing in the postseason, playing in the World Series, knows that he's just, he's weeks away from getting a $350 million contract. You'd think then he would be on his best behavior.
Because I think that...
Not be like, oh, I'm going to just,
Yeah, he there was a few instances in that World Series that really didn't put him in the best light.
That's his immaturity at its worst. And moving forward, if he's a New York Yankee, he's going to know what he can get away with and what he can't. And in his mind, this is what he's always wanted. So even when he was a Dodger, even when he was in the World Series, his mind, in my opinion, is still focused on being a New York Yankee for the remainder of his career, at least as an impact player. So I think that it could really change him, and I think we'd be surprised to see what kind of player he becomes if he is a Yankee.
I don't want Manny Machado on this team because I think the Yankees are set in the infield, okay, and we don't need any more right-handed power. It has nothing to do with his attitude or that he's a dirty player, because I'll tell you something. How dirty is Manny Machado really? How honestly, how dirty is Manny Machado? Because even 20, 30 years ago, that's how these guys played the game. How many times as Yankee fans have we sat down and watched highlights of Hal McRae literally driving Willie Randolph 35 feet towards third base?
Yeah.
Just slide into hard. Maybe Machado would have fit better in that era, but maybe it's just because guys are softer now.
That's true. But here's a thing, too, that people don't think about. How much of a leader do you see Aaron Judge as? Brett Gardner, Do you think they're going to let some punk come in and ruin the clubhouse? It has nothing to do with attitude that concerns me. I don't know. Maybe this Paxton move was the Yankees saying we're not giving up Andujar. I don't know. But you're right. As the team is right now, as far as the infield goes, we are set, even with Didi hurt.
All right, so what's your move then? Let's say Hal hears everything he wants to hear from Manny Machado. They sign him. He plays shortstop till Didi gets back. So now what? Didi plays the rest of the season. He's a bench player now? And then you let him walk at the end of the year?
Maybe at that point, the Yankees, if they feel they need more pitching, depending on what else they do this offseason, that's when you dish Andujar. I don't know. But then
to the Giants for a little
or hey,
Bumgarner?
Or hey, I don't think this is likely, but what if Andujar's batting 250 or 220 and doesn't have a lot of home runs like he did last year, and he's really not performing? Maybe he's just not the answer. You move Machado to third. I don't know. Okay,
well then if Miguel Andujar's batting 220 in August, that's a major problem.
Yeah,
because now here's a guy that you could have gotten a legitimate ace for, and now you have to send him to AAA,
right?
Because he can't hit.
I agree. So it's a decision that signing Manny Machado is like a domino effect, and what you're gonna do moving forward. I wish they were talking to Bryce Harper, to be honest.
That's the move. Like, if the Yankees are saying, screw it, we're all in, we're going to make a major splash in the free agent market, that's the guy. Brian Cashman has to be smart enough to know that he doesn't need another right-handed bat in this lineup.
And it's not because Bryce Harper's better than Machado. I think Machado's a much better player. But let's look at what this team needs. They need Bryce Harper. He makes too much sense. And I believe he will be a Yankee.
Who, Harper?
Harper.
I don't know, man.
I really believe it.
They're not signing both of these guys. I can't see that happening.
When is this meeting taking place?
I'm assuming it's going to happen before the GM meetings, because that's when a lot of this moving and shaking is going to get done, which is usually the first week of December. So I would say probably, maybe next week or so.
Are there any other teams out there that are saying to themselves, oh, shit, they just announced this meeting. We better get on the phone with Machado right now if we want to sign him.
Maybe it could be to scare Bryce Harper a little bit to come down to the Yankees' price range.
Oh, I fully believe that that's all this is. I fully believe that Bryce Harper's a New York Yankee, and I think that this is a big play. And if he doesn't come down, you sign Machado.
Yeah. Again, it's nothing against Machado's attitude or whatever. I just there's no need for that type of player, his skill set on this team when Bryce Harper is out there. You need another outfielder. You need a left-handed power hitter. So what does Bryce Harper do? He's an outfielder who's a left-handed power hitter. So, I mean, if you're going that route, why are we not hearing more about this?
And just to unless you have something else to say, I mean, it's like beating a dead horse with the Harper Machado stuff. You mentioned something the other day that you don't think the Yankees are as aggressive in Corbin as we may have thought going into the offseason. What made you feel that way?
I don't know. It's just a sense that I get.
Do you think it's just because he hasn't been talked about?
I don't know. It's just the stuff that I'm reading that maybe other teams are interested in him. They might be more willing to go to certain lengths than now that Paxton's here, maybe the Yankees are looking for somebody to slot into a 3-4 slot and not like a 2-3 slot.
See, as high as I am on Paxton, in my opinion, I still would want Corbin over, say, J.A. Happ.
I mean, the guy that he's so intriguing. Like, I mean, he's like the prettiest girl at the dance, and you want to dance with him so bad, but at any point he might say yes to you, but he might, or she, I should say she, because I said the prettiest girl on the dance, but can start banging the captain of the football team, and that's Nathan Eovaldi, and that captain of the football team could be another arm injury, but she might dance with you for a couple of dances.
I don't.
Is it worth?
All I'm doing is picturing you at a dance at this point.
Is it worth going? I mean, is it worth asking her for a dance right now? I mean,
with Corbin,
with Nathan Eovaldi.
Oh, I actually mentioned this to you because I was listening to Francesa. You said it last episode that when he says certain things, Even if you think the guy's the biggest douche in the world, you respect his opinion. And he mentioned that in all those championship teams, the Yankees didn't necessarily have the best pitchers in baseball. What they had were a couple guys, 2-3 guys that just always showed up in the postseason. And if you land a guy like Eovaldi and he can stay healthy, think about the guys you just put on this team that you have faith in. And, hoping Severino is just lights out all year and you could start trusting him. Now you have Tanaka, who there's no one out there that you're going to have more faith in. And then Eovaldi, who proved, something that I never thought he was capable of last year.
Look, we saw last season the Yankees won 100 games and their starting rotation was pretty iffy, to be nice about it. How many starts do we get out of guys like Domingo Germán and Cessa and Jonathan Loáisiga, and this team still won 100 games last year with DL stints from CC, and we lost, you lost Jordan Montgomery in April, and who else? Tanaka spent time on the DL, and this team still won 100 games. So can they do it? If you go out there and sign Eovaldi, you traded for Paxton, and these guys spend time on the DL, can you still get to the postseason? Yeah,
you can. Absolutely. That's what I said last year. I said after Tanaka had his performance in the postseason last year, not this past year, 2017, I said even if he has another roller coaster season, this team's still going to make the playoffs. And this is a guy you can trust in the playoffs. And what happened? Tanaka was much better this past year, but he was still up and down.
He was more consistent.
He was more consistent towards the end, but they made it to the postseason, and he put the team on his back as much as he could. He was brilliant in the postseason again. So, to me, let me ask you this. If Corbin or Eovaldi could be signed right now, who would you rather wake up and hear the news that they signed?
Oh, my God. It's a tough question. I don't know. I was a big Eovaldi fan when he was here the first time. I just didn't.
So was I. He just couldn't stay healthy.
He couldn't stay healthy. And is he healthy now? If he's healthy, if you're gonna guarantee his health to me, I know you can't, but if you could say that he's gonna pitch healthy, give you 32 starts for the next 3 to 4 years, I'm taking him.
Right.
If that is the case, if he could stay healthy, then yes, Nathan Eovaldi would be the guy.
You already know this guy's got the stones to do it in the big spot. I don't know that about Corbin, and that's a risk I'm taking with Paxton. So now I'm going to have 2 guys in my rotation like that.
Okay, so let's answer the question, though, based on, the elements that we do know. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy. So is that a risk you're willing to take, given how much he proved himself?
No. The guy's had, 3 Tommy John?
2.
2?
I don't think you can actually have it though.
No, they just amputate your arm at that point.
Venters
I think
3?
he only had 2.5 because they can't technically perform a third.
You need
one.
Tommy John again. Let's just rip it off at that point.
They can't drill a third hole into the bone, so they kind of do some fancy shit. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Well,
I don't know, man. If you got Sevy, you got Tanaka, you got Paxton.
For me, I'm taking that risk. I'm going with Eovaldi.
I think I don't know. I think you have to. The guy's a gunslinger out there. He's got the stones. I mean, Jesus, I mean, just what I saw him do, and what was that, game 3 or game 4 of the World Series? That
the 20-hour game?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He was incredible. That was actually one of the best postseason pitching performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, you can't argue that.
I think he's also going to come cheaper than Corbin.
Yes.
So I think that's something else you got to look for. You got to look towards that,
I still think he'll try getting those years, though. That'll Eovaldi. That'll be where the hang up is. Not on the money. It'll be on that third year.
3 to 4 years.
I don't think they'll want him for 3 years.
For 3 to 5. Probably.
Yankees would try and push Eovaldi for 2 years.
You're not going to get him for 2 years.
I know, and that's why they won't probably get him. I don't think they'll go for that extra year. Whereas Corbin, maybe they will because he's younger, but I still don't think they'd give Corbin that extra year in terms of it being 6 years. I could see them giving him a 5-year deal.
Yeah, but you're gonna pay him a lot more. I mean, that's you're gonna saddle yourself. What if he becomes AJ Burnett?
Right, you're gonna pay this guy a lot more. Yeah, his numbers are good, but are they that through the roof that
No.
he's our end all be all?
No, I'm
we're
against.
satisfied with. I'll tell you right now, Corbin. Yeah, he excites me, but he's not the guy that I wake up and I find out he's a Yankee and I'm jumping for joy that this team's set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be happy and excited. They add another great arm, but hey, you give me a Valdi, and my mind immediately goes to October.
The Yankees still, even if they get Corbin or Evaldi, they still need better options in the 6-7 position in that, so they have some depth, man. Because I just don't want to see Luis Cessa anymore. I don't want to see Domingo Germán anymore. I like to see what Domingo Germán can do as a power arm out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him taking starts anymore.
No. And we said this last year too. So for it to happen again going into this season, I'll be really frustrated.
I wouldn't mind seeing Loizaga make a couple.
I want to give him the year in AAA, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, let him have a full healthy year.
I don't want him starting the year in the rotation.
Remember, he didn't even come up from AAA last year.
Came up from AA.
He came up from
Right.
AA. Let him get a full year in AAA. Let's see what this guy's got.
His stuff is filthy.
I
man.
liked his
good.
stuff a lot.
It's good.
Do you like it a lot?
I like it,
I like
a
it
lot.
a lot.
All right, so I don't know, man. Hopefully by the time we come around to a pod here, we'll have some news. This is what I hate about the hot stove. It's just
Is there any
bullshit.
rumors with Evaldi? Is there any?
Yankees like
Oh yeah, they're.
yeah, but it's going to
Portsmouth.
come down to money. If
Yeah.
they get it clean, that's another thing I wanted to bring up when we were talking about Paxton last week. Everybody's worried about his injury history. Brian Cashman did his due diligence on it. He knows it must be good. What he's seen must be good enough for him.
Yeah, and to your point of the hot stove being kind of a difficult topic to keep talking about, we're also dealing with an organization whose GM has a constant poker face, and you would think throughout baseball that every GM does. It's just not the case. I mean, Cashman will give up what he wants to give up, but we never know. I mean, was Paxton the first person on your mind? Did you think that you were going to get a text that James Paxton the other night was a New York Yankee?
Yeah, no, I wasn't surprised by it.
No, I'm not saying you were surprised, but he wasn't any topic of discussion. What's been the main topic of discussion?
Well, that's the media, and I'll take some of the blame for it, kind of blowing up the Indians guys, but there was always a more realistic chance that Paxton was coming because you knew it would be an easier deal to make. The Mariners are looking to rebuild, so they're looking to get assets. Paxton's a young, controllable pitcher. I mean, it made sense. You heard Cashman liked him. He had interest in him. I wasn't surprised by that at all. It's just that it just was quiet when it happened. Normally,
Didn't you feel like that trade happened awfully quick? Don't we usually hear like a little more build up before something like that happens?
Yeah, like Yankees, Mariners still off.
Or
on
like,
Paxton.
they kept
deal about to be done.
Yeah.
It was more like he's a Yankee. That's it.
well, they give. I think is that Jerry DePoto's the GM out in Seattle.
Yes.
And Cashman, give them credit for being quiet about it because Cash said that he was working on this for almost a month.
Wow. And that's what I mean. Cashman will give the pieces that he wants to give to the media. And I'm not saying that he never brought up James Paxton, but he didn't make James Paxton your main point of focus there. And it was a bit of a surprise. It wasn't because we heard his name a few times, but we don't know what Cashman is necessarily thinking right
That's
now.
why I almost think that this Machado stuff is just a giant smokescreen to bring in Bryce Harper.
I agree.
Because really, outside of CC Sabathia, which you knew the Yankees wanted, you knew the Yankees weren't going to let anybody get him. I'm not talking about this past season when he was a free agent in 2008, going into 2009. What guy have you known that the Yankees have been hot for? It was no secret, and they got him. It always seems like whoever you hear them linked to, it's to mask whatever else they're doing.
Right. I agree.
All right, so there's really nothing else to touch on the hot stove here. I mean, nobody. You guys excited about the Tim Locastro trade?
I think it's a nice trade, but is that really what I want to discuss? No. I mean, I think it was a nice trade. He's a good player.
The nice.
He's under the radar kind of guy.
I mean, he's a nice depth depth for the organization. A guy that can play a couple different positions. Apparently, his numbers in the major leagues don't show it, but apparently he's got some pop in his bat. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe then you don't have to play Shane Robinson if you get an injury in the outfield this year.
Right.
All right, so like I said, hopefully, we're going to be inching closer to the winter meeting, so a lot of stuff should be happening in the next couple of weeks here. It's just that you get to this point in the season where nothing is happening, and you're just talking about rumors, and like you said, how many more times are you going to talk about Machado versus Harper? Where are they going? I just want to see these guys sign somewhere and move on with our lives.
I agree.
Speaking of moving on, let's move on to our interview with Ron Wotus of the San Francisco Giants.
Three-time World Series champion coach, Ron Wotus.
So Ron was nice enough to spend some time on this Thanksgiving weekend with us. So let's take you to our interview with Ron Wotus. Chris and Christian of the NYYST Sports Talk Podcast. We're on with Ron Wotus, the third base coach for the San Francisco Giants. Ron, how you doing today? Thanks for spending a few minutes with us on this Thanksgiving weekend.
I'm doing well, guys. Great to be with you.
Ron, how was your Thanksgiving with your family? Good?
It was good. Yeah, we had a good time as always. And, I spent it back here with my wife. I married a California girl. I can't get her back to Connecticut. So we stay out here and try to get people come see us.
Well, we're East Coast guys, so, we're used
I'll come over there.
We're
freezing over here.
We're going to send Stat Guy Rye out to California with you.
Bring Stat Guy out, no problem.
Ron, you served as bench coach under three different managers for the San Francisco Giants. A lot of fans sometimes have difficulty grasping what actually a bench coach does. Because, as Yankee fans, we always saw Don Zimmer sitting next to Joe Torre, and he was kind of like his consigliere out there, guide him through games. Would somebody with as much experience as a bench coach as you have had, just kind of take the fans through what exactly are your responsibilities, to the manager, what you're doing out there to help the team during the game?
Right. Well, every bench coach's probably relationship with their manager is a little bit different. They break up the responsibilities on the staff. But if you really narrow it down, besides my infield responsibilities and watching the defense and things like that, I'm there to help the manager any way I can. If he has a question, I want to have an answer for him. If I think that we're missing something, that we're making a mistake or we should do something, I'm going to go ahead and speak up and give them my input. And really, that's the bottom line. Help them wherever you can. And it's just not during a game. Obviously, it starts before the game with the players in the clubhouse, making out lineups, et cetera, et cetera. So, but during the game, my basic responsibilities were, I watched the infield and the field for him. I positioned the guys and make sure he could just focus on the game itself, the pitching decisions and what he wants to do.
Ron, interesting that you brought up that you position the infield. Baseball in recent times has taken towards drastic shifts in the infield. Is that something that you like to do? Is it just something that's a necessity in today's game? Give us your thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, it's not something that I like to do only for the fact that it's made my job much more difficult. I mean, we all have people now in the front office that are helping us with the positioning and they have their ideas. And usually you talk about the starting lineup and who you're going to shift on. And, I look at a lot of video to make my determinations because you just can't go off of spray charts and percentages. You have to see, how you're going to pitch them and what the hitter is going to do and how he's going to react to certain pitchers. So where it gets real difficult is when you have the bullpen come in and the game's on the line. So I always like to look at the closer, and find out who we're going to shift on with the closer, guys with better stuff. So it changes really with every pitcher. So a lot of times you just go over the starting pitcher and then you get in the course of the game and you have these tough decisions to make. Do you shift for the guy on second? Do you shift with the guy on first? I mean, it's a no-brainer, with nobody on some of these shift candidates. So, it's really complicated the game for me as a bench coach on the field because there's a lot involved with it. And then, of course, not all pitchers. I think now most everybody's buying into it, but you've seen your share of pitchers that aren't on board with the shift. So you have to deal with all those things as well when you're deciding on how you're going to shift on a player.
Ron, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but it's something that popped into my head when I was looking at all the years you've been with the Giants now. Are you the longest tenured non-manager, just part of a coaching staff in baseball right now?
I don't know for a fact. I believe I am. I know Glenn Hoffman's been in the league an awfully long time, and I very well may be. I know I am here in San Francisco in the history of the Giant organization. Wow. I'm the longest tenured coach there, so I'd have to look that up, but I'm not positive.
Now, given all this experience, a big part of last year's season, a lot of the frustration from Yankee fans was the difference between the two rivals, the Yankees and the Red Sox, and that, both teams had rookie managers, but something that we tried to stress a lot to the fans last year was a lot goes into having some coaching experience, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, being under someone like AJ Hinch for Alex Cora. How much of an impact does that make now that he's manager, as opposed to Aaron Boone, who came into this kind of blindly, no coaching experience, nothing?
Well, speaking to me, I'm going to tell you that I know I'm a much better coach now than when I first started in 1998. I'm light years better than I used to be. And I think in any industry, you guys do this podcast, you've been doing it a while. I'm sure you'd say you're a lot better now than you were when you first started off.
I can't even listen to our first episodes. It makes me cringe a little.
See, exactly. So I believe in experience, and especially in baseball, to be honest with you, where I really honed my skills was managing in the minor leagues, 8 years there, because, it's a little easier. You go through trial and error with things. You can do other things in development. You understand the importance of developing players when you work in the minor leagues. So to your question, I think that experience is extremely important, but I do think it's overblown. Saying Alex worked under AJ Hinch, so now all of a sudden he's going to be this great baseball guy. I think we pick and choose and take from everybody we're involved with in baseball, whether it's a player, whether it's your fellow coaches, and you go from there. But to your point, I think experience is extremely important, and I'm sure both those guys, even Alex can't do much better. They won the World Series and they had a heck of a team. But I'm sure he'll tell you in a few years from now, he's a much better manager. He'll be a much better manager in a few years than he was this past year.
And, you've been working under Bruce Bochy for quite some time. I think it's easy to say he's revered as one of the best managers in the game right now. Have you felt a difference? I know you've coached under a few managers. Has there been any type of difference that you can give us that really sticks out under Bochy of what makes him considered one of the best managers out there right now?
Well, I got to tell you, the three guys I worked for were all outstanding: Dusty Baker, Felipe Alou, and Bruce Bochy. And they're all similar in the fact that they're very competitive and they want to win, and they all have a little bit of a different style. So I guess to answer that, the best way I can, we've won 3 World Series under Bruce Bochy. And, I think he's got a steady hand. He doesn't overreact to situations. And, you really got to point to the atmosphere we created here and the players. When you have control of that clubhouse and you bring in people that are winners, it's much easier to move in the direction that you want to move into. So I think that, the atmosphere that we've created, and the players got to get the credit, because you look back to the 3 World Series that we won, we were never on paper the best team, but we played the best. We did it with pitching, we did it with defense and timely hitting, and we did not beat ourselves. And I think that's a great way to win as a coach, because everybody's, doing the job that they're supposed to do. And, Boch certainly made great moves in the playoffs, a little bit like Milwaukee did this year, trying to use the relievers earlier. Now, I don't agree with everything they did with their hater guy there, but we used Jeremy Affeldt in Game 7 of the 2014 World Series. Used him early. A few things out of character how we used him during the season, which you see some teams talking about and trying to do today.
All right, Chris and Christian of the NYY Sports Talk podcast. We're talking to Ron Wotus, the third base coach for the San Francisco Giants. Before I bring it back to some on-field type stuff, since you brought up the 3 World Series, I always like asking this question or hearing guys that have won multiple titles answer this. I know it might be a hard question for you, but does one of those championships stick out more than the others do? Like, if you could say which one was your favorite or which one meant the most to you, could you do that?
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult to do. Obviously, the first time you win, I mean, this franchise hasn't won the World Series in 50-plus years. So to win in 2010, when really no one gave us much of a chance, was awfully special. I mean, this city was just ecstatic for that World Championship. But having said that, now you go on and you win in 12, and then you win in 14. It's almost surreal that you were able to do it every other year. And I think obviously the 14 was special in the fact that it went to a Game 7, and that series could have went either way. And we wouldn't have won that World Series without our main guy, Madison Bumgarner, pitching 3 times, 2 starts, and then throwing 5 innings out of the bullpen in Game 7. That was special as well. So it is a difficult question to answer. They're all special for different reasons, but those are the 2 points that I wanted to make.
Speaking of Bumgarner, there's been a lot of talk, hot stove talk last year, this year. It seemed as if Cashman had his foot in the door somewhat with Bumgarner, at least getting the Giants organization to listen. And then it seemed like every time something started to pick up, it was squashed immediately, that Bumgarner wasn't going anywhere. Tell me how valued this guy is, just as a fan looking in. I mean, I don't know if there's a better big game pitcher out there. How valued is he? And is there a price tag on Bumgarner? Is he going anywhere in the near future?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer for the fact that he is going to, get one more year and then he's going to be a free agent. In the situation that we're in with the last 2 seasons, not, having as many wins as we'd like, we're a little bit of in a flux area here with the new general president of baseball ops coming in, Farhan and Brian Sabian moving out. It's kind of hard to predict what Farhan's going to choose to do. I do know this. We've, in the past, never wanted to rebuild. We always believe that we can win. The organization and the fans expect winning, and we're not going to, all of a sudden start trading and selling players to have a major rebuild. Could it be a mini rebuild? That's possible. So having said that, Bumgarner certainly is a trade piece that could help you rebuild in the short term. Again, now, he's our main guy. So if we really want to win next year, I think we need to do it with him. To your point, I mean, what he's done in big games, he really is the heart and soul of the team. I mean, Bum and Buster Posey, but Bumgarner brings a competitive fire to our team that every ball club needs. He's got a no-nonsense approach, and he's always been our guy. So if we want to win in the near future, you better get tremendous return if we're going to lose him, because he really is the key to that pitching staff.
Ron, this past season you transitioned from the bench coach to the third base coaching position. Again, that's the type of position like many casual fans might not notice until there's a play at the plate. When you are seeing a runner around second coming into third on a base hit to the outfield, what are the types of things you're looking for when you are deciding whether or not you want to send that runner home?
Yeah, well, most of it's done, prior to the moment. Not most of it, but a lot of preparation needs to be done prior to the moment. You need to know the guy's arm, obviously, and his accuracy. And even before the ball's hit, you're looking at the depth of the outfield. You're understanding whether it's a slow field or a fast field. So all those things are already in your head. And then basically, the biggest decision you have is the point in time when he's rounding third. Where he's at opposed to the base, knowing the runner's speed and where he's at, that gives you the best indicator on whether you can score him or not. And then when the ball's hit as well, I mean, if it's hit to the outfielders, to his left or his right, you really want to have a visual of that when the ball's hit. So you go through the infield and you see where the holes are and the gaps are to where the outfielder has to move the ball. And those things really help in your final decision. But the final decision is definitely made on where the runner is at the bag. Did he get a good jump? Some guys freeze on a line drive, right? Or they hesitate. They don't get a good jump, and it looks like you should score them. But if they're not where they need to be because they didn't get that good jump, sometimes you have no choice to hold them up. Now, I know Phil Nevin over there, he didn't have to hold up anybody because he did a lot of shaking hands there in New York. I talked to him quite a bit.
Oh, he does he hands off the football to Stan likes the football.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny, especially over the last 5 or 6 years as I matured as a fan and just, someone who's played the game for a long time. I've seen my share of bad third base coaches compared to some of the better ones that the Yankees have had. I'd have to imagine you feel a lot more pressure, at least during the game, being the third base coach at this point. Because just talking as a fan, I mean, if there's a bad play at the plate where the guy should never been sent, I'm pissed off for a few days after at the third base coach. Do you feel that pressure during the game, especially in your first season there? Or was it an easy transition because you've been so close to the game for so many years?
Yeah, well, I did it my first year coming to the big leagues with Dusty Baker in 1998. I came up as a third base coach and the infield coach, and then I transitioned into the bench coach the following year and the infield coach. So I had been bench coaching for 19 years, and we had a little bit of a staff shakeup. They wanted to change things up. So I went to third base, and I'm actually enjoying it, Chris and Christian. I'm telling you, I had the time of my life. There is pressure on it, but I love to compete, and the decisions that you're making in the game have a direct impact to the game, which after 19 years of bench coaching, you can whisper in the manager's ear or make decisions, but you're really not accountable for any of it. So it's nice to be back on the field competing and having real decisions with the players that impact the game.
Ron, you've been somebody that's been around Major League Baseball for going on 35 years now. You broke in with the Pirates in 1983. You've been a coach for over 20 years. As we brought up earlier in the interview with the way that the game has changed with defensive shifts, I also want to get a take of a longtime baseball guy about how analytics has taken over the game of Major League Baseball, whereas it seems like it's something that's really driving a lot of decisions in the game in the last 2 or 3 years as compared to 30 years ago.
Yeah, no question. That's the sign of the times. And I learned a long time ago you have to adapt with it. I remember when I got to the big leagues as a minor league manager in 1998, I went out and bought myself a computer because I had a box full of all my scouting reports and all the notes that I had. And I said, hey, this computer is going to be very helpful in keeping this information in one spot. Plus, Joe Madden was doing it over there in Anaheim as the bench coach. So I got on board with that. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to learn to adapt. That's for sure. And I think a lot of the information we get is good information. It all depends how far you take it. I'm a firm believer that you can't manage the game from upstairs, because once you get in the moment, things change. You got to be able to look in the guy's eyes. You got to be able to trust your coaches, knowing whether the guy's swinging good or he's not swinging good. We got people on the field that have been in the game their whole life, and you see things when you're working with players, even in the moment of the game, on who's going to be your best choice, and it's not always statistical. So I think it's something that you got to work hand in hand together with. But the human element of the game is still one of the most important things that I've learned through my experiences in coaching. So working together is the key on that.
It's funny that you brought all that up, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was, it took me a while to get over the fact that analytics have truly taken over the game, and I understand how important they are, but I'll never believe that analytics will win a championship. And over those 3 championships that you've been a part of, I mean, outside of anything else, can you find a common denominator between those teams that, as Yankee fans looking in, that we could look for, moving forward as they try and build another dynasty here?
Well, you guys are built a lot different than we were. You guys obviously are built with power and home runs, and that's how you score. We've always been built on pitching and defense, and playing fundamental baseball here in the National League. We never beat ourselves, as I said. So I still believe that pitching is going to win in the end, especially with home run hitters, right? But having said that, there's no way that I would not want to have some of the guys you got over there with the Yankees. I mean, the damage they can do and how you guys can put runs on the board. But I do believe in the old baseball way. There's not one way that can always work. You can pound the ball like you do and win a lot of games. But we've always won here in San Francisco with pitching and defense and not beating ourselves and scratching out the hits. But the game seems to be changing that way. It doesn't seem to be very important, the bunt, the hit and run and moving guys along. So things are definitely evolving into a different way today.
Ron, we appreciate your time. I have one last question for you, because the Yankees almost right away in the offseason signed back two guys who have been here the longest, in Brett Gardner and CC Sabathia. And my point to everything was, all of our points really here were to the hundreds of fans aggravated at the moves that we've heard from. If anything comes of this, it's the experience. These guys have been there for so long, through so many different things. They were there in 2009 when they won the championship. And everyone's argument back to us is that clubhouse leadership isn't a real thing. It's a theory. It's a myth. How important, I mean, maybe we're wrong. How important is veteran leadership in that clubhouse?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. We talk about the World Series that we won. We had several guys in there that kept the tone and the team moving in the right direction. So you mentioned those two players there. You got a lot of good young players over there. I think you need veteran leadership on that club. I think you need some balance, and I think you're the best club you can be when you do have that mix of youth and enthusiasm and experience. Because when you get in big games and through the course of the year, you're going to have your ups and downs, and those guys are going to be worth their weight in gold if they are leaders in the clubhouse. So, you want to get some sort of performance out of them. There's no question about that. But we've always had guys like that. We had Pat Burrell in 2010 and Cody Ross that did so much for us, Edgar Renteria, and the list goes on through our World Series. And I mentioned Bumgarner in 2014. He'd been through it 3 times. And it's just a mentality and a confidence that comes with the veterans and that can really help the young kids. So I think you definitely need it in the playoffs, and you need it if you want to be a championship team.
Well, Ron, we want to thank you for spending some time with us here on this Thanksgiving weekend. You guys are actually going to see the Yankees fairly early in the season this year. The Yankees will be out in San Francisco April 26th, 27th, and 28th this year. So best of luck in 2019, except for those 3 games.
All right, guys. Well, we'll look forward to playing the Yankees. It was great being with you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks for coming on, Ron.
You got it, guys.
All right, that was Ron Wotus. He is currently the third base coach for the San Francisco Giants. Can't thank Ron enough for coming on, spending a few minutes with us here today. Very good interview.
Yeah.
Very well
awesome.
spoken. Hopefully, Ron will take the big seat one day,
Maybe if he doesn't, he's a coach for the Yankees one day, and we got a hookup for tickets.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's all you're looking for.
No. He's a good guy.
What a selfish prick you are.
No, you know what? It was pretty cool because there's so much that goes into, as a Yankee fan lately, with all the different changes, what a coach's role is. And I think, Christian, you asked an awesome question with what actually a bench coach is all about. And I think it gave a nice insight to the fans, what it means to be a coach and how important it is. So I thought it was an awesome interview.
Yeah, I always like listening to baseball guys talk about baseball, not necessarily players or games, but kind of strategy, what goes into making decisions. So I wanted to ask him questions that correlated to that. This guy's been coaching for over 20 years now. He's been, like I said in the interview, he's been around the game for over 35 years. So, I mean, this guy has as much experience as anybody currently associated with a club right now. So.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts to the game of baseball, and it's not just about, that one play. It's about the setup and, what goes into positioning your players and how to approach everybody.
It's things that
so many different
that we
parts.
don't think about just watching every game. We just don't think about all those things.
And you want to ask him so many more questions, but since he's currently under contract with a ball club, like, you don't want to get the guy in trouble. You don't want to ask him certain things because they're not really allowed to speak on players under contract.
And him and Bochy are actually going into their final year. So who knows what his plans are moving forward?
Yeah, Aaron, you better not screw up this year.
Man. You better watch out.
I'll call Ron Wotus up.
We could get Wotus, maybe, and Bochy both. Who knows?
Never know.
Yeah, we got the Aaron. Come on, bro. We had your back last year. Don't make us
us look good now.
Don't make us call Ron Wotus.
We'll call Ron Wotus. I'll text him. He's a texter.
All right, so thank you for listening to episode 85 of the NYY Sports Talk podcast. Spoiler guy Rye already ruined it last episode. Who's worn 85 for the New York Yankees?
Luis Cessa.
Yeah, well, hopefully he won't be wearing that number or any number for the Yankees in 2019.
Hopefully not.
But thank you for listening. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Back to normalcy for a couple weeks before, and then more holidays hit. So, get your fat asses into the gym, work off your turkey, and then get ready for your Christmas ham in a few weeks.
Nice.
All right, so that'll wrap up this episode. Stat Guy Rye.
You're pretty bad when your number never changes from 85.
That's true.
Did his number ever change?
It probably
went from 90 to 80.
Yeah, it probably went up. Let's go Yanks.
All right, Chris. Say goodbye.